Your son is gone. He was weak and foolish like his father. So I destroyed him.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weak and Foolish Movie Podcast. My name is Mike Tang, and with me is...
My name is Job Ang.
And Job here is one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, Star Wars experts that I know. And we are doing a podcast, yes, on the Star Wars Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise of Skywalker.
It's a really tough title to say sometimes if you're not actually paying attention to where the goes. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about the teaser trailer for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. It's big enough of a deal that we would dedicate an entire podcast to it.
Yes.
And I know we're kind of a little bit late in the game. The trailer dropped last Friday. It's now Wednesday, almost a week later. But, you know, we figure there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot that we want to talk about with each other.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to record that for you guys.
Yeah.
And hopefully, hopefully it'll be entertaining to you. And so we're going to first start by...
Wait, let me first push my glasses back up my nose. Yeah, okay. I'm ready.
And then did you turn on your lightsaber?
No, that will be safely kept in the mystery box for now.
Yes, J.J. Abrams and his mystery box.
Oh, JJ.
All right, we are going to open up our discussion. We're just talking about... First of all, our reaction to the last movie in the Skywalker saga, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi.
This should be fun.
We both saw it on opening night together, and subsequently, right after the movie, both of us had a meltdown outside of the theater. The movie surprised us in a lot of ways, not in the ways that we were expecting to be surprised in.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker was kind of a shell of his former self. He didn't take down any fools with his Force powers.
No.
We were expecting him to be this crazy Jedi sage.
Didn't crunch any walkers with his bare hands. Nothing like that. Unfortunately.
Yeah, Rey was not a Skywalker. She was a nobody. And that was supposed to be a big twist in the movie. And for me, I was really hoping that she would be a part of this lineage. And I felt like the twist fell flat. That really disappointed me, especially because it seemed like that's what J.J. Abrams was setting up in The Force Awakens. Now, since opening night, we both have revisited The Last Jedi several times.
Oh, yeah, several times.
And now, Job, tell us your thoughts on The Last Jedi now, just like a quick summary of your review of it.
Yeah, so jumping back a little bit, the first night we watched it, I was raging mad. I was like, Rian Johnson, I love him, but he just ruined my childhood. He took a dump on 40 years of Star Wars history, blah, 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 and I was like really angry. In fact, I think your friends, Mike, who came with us, have known me henceforth as Star Wars Meltdown guy. It was that bad. It was that bad. But, I think it's because I bring so much. Luke Skywalker is Batman to me. He's my superhero. He's the guy I looked up to as a kid and wanted to be like. And so anticipating him coming back after all these years in the movie, I was really looking forward to it. Looking forward to him igniting the green lightsaber once again and wrecking shop one last time. And needless to say, none of that happened, and I was very disappointed. But, after thinking about it for a while, I had gotten tickets for the next day as well. I was going to go in and say, you know what, I trust Rian Johnson as a filmmaker. Looper is a brilliant movie, in my opinion. Brothers Bloom is grossly underrated. He's just such a great and skilled, not to mention his episodes of Breaking Bad.
And also Brick, his debut film.
Yeah, Brick too. Yeah, Brick. Just a truly skilled writer, truly skilled filmmaker and director. And I went into the second viewing saying, you know what, I'm going to try to trust where Rian Johnson is taking us, put aside any expectations I have, kind of know where this movie is going now, and what it's trying to say. And I think I made a complete about face. I came out of it going like, this is such a great movie. I actually adore the film now, which is really funny. But it kind of, we could go deep into this and say there's some kind of meta narrative of like, the kind of expectations we set in life and how we react to things. But I guess to simplify it all together, I just think it's a great film. It's a film about failure, really, and in today's blockbuster scene. Well, I guess we're seeing that in Avengers now, but it's a rare thing to see our heroes fail so spectacularly. And the whole film is about dealing with failure and letting go of that, and forgiving yourself. There's a line where Yoda kind of talks to Luke and says, I told you to pass on what you've learned, all your successes and strengths, but I also meant to pass on the lessons you learned in your failures as well. And I think that's kind of the onus or what prompted Luke to then sacrifice himself for the greater good and to pass on that, self-sacrifice is even more valuable than moping around on an island and milking space cows, for all day long, which is still so unsettling watching it again, that space cow scene. Anyhow, yeah. So I think another thing is just there's something to be said about allowing Rey to be her own character and not being tied into a family lineage. She's not a privileged character by any means, as far as we know so far. And I think that kind of allows her to be her own character, whereas Ben Solo / Kylo Ren was born into all of this lineage, all of this inheritance, and he comes up with nothing because he wanted more. He was not satisfied. There's a lot of layers to this, but this podcast isn't a Last Jedi review podcast.
No, and thank you for taking us through all that. And I feel like because you're so passionate about The Last Jedi, like you've actually single-handedly helped me get over some of the stuff that I couldn't get over with The Last Jedi. And I think all those things you just explained, yeah, you watched it. We both watched The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
That's right.
Once back to back.
Yeah.
And I think that that viewing experience, seeing it back to back, really helped me kind of recalibrate what the Last Jedi was trying to say.
Yeah.
And it was actually very moving for me to have that experience with you. So yeah, thank you for being patient with me for help and explain to me the things that you were seeing in this film, and I was able to see the things that you were saying.
Yeah, a lot of this comes from I think this is a film that invites a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue, and listened to a lot of podcasts reviewing it, not just any film podcast, but like Star Wars fan podcasts, and was able to glean a lot of interesting insight from that.
I think looking back at The Last Jedi, there are times where I go back and forth between light and darkness. Sometimes I really appreciate The Last Jedi. Sometimes I wish some things had gone another way. And I think this is what I'm so excited about with The Rise of Skywalker, is that I feel like we're going to be taken to a place where we're, again, emotionally satisfied. And I feel like you're going to come out of this movie just like how you came out of The Force Awakens.
Oh,
using your lightsaber as a cane because you're just so...
That's right.
You went through a journey in the theater. And JJ, his sensibilities has a lot to do with nostalgia and playing with those feelings associated with that.
Yeah, he goes big
right?
on feels, for sure.
Yeah, he wants you to feel good.
Yeah.
And I think Rian Johnson wants you to think.
Yeah.
He's definitely a filmmaker. He makes movies that subvert expectations, subvert genre.
Yeah, very
and
cerebral kind of movies.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the way to cap not just this trilogy, but all 9 movies, which is what J.J. Abrams is saying that he's going to do, he's trying to tie together the entire saga,
Yes.
episodes 1 through 9. I think the way to do that is with nostalgia, is with those good feelings.
I think
we want to leave on a high note.
Yeah, that's what we want out of this last film in this story that we've been following since we were kids. These movies came out before either of us was even born. The first Star Wars movies. So yeah, I think episode 9 is gonna serve that nostalgia pretty heavily, and I don't think we'll mind all that much.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the trailer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trailer.
Instead of going through like beat by beat what happens
Sure.
in the trailer, because I think if you're listening to this, you probably have listened to it. Have watched the trailer multiple times. So we'll just talk about 3 takeaways, 3 things that we really enjoyed and were in awe with the trailer.
Great.
So Joe, why don't you give us one and I'll give one, and then
Let's take turns.
maybe we'll have some overlap.
Yeah, let's see. So first of all, my one takeaway is, and this is a J.J. Abrams trademark, is great shots. Just really gorgeous color palette, very filmic, very cinematic. He's the original director who cast Rey and shot Rey, and he made her look really spectacular, and that's come back. I think you and I are in agreement that Rian Johnson, while a great filmmaker, didn't necessarily shoot with the best lenses. There was a bit of a weird thing to how some of his shots look. I'm not saying Last Jedi looked bad. In fact, I think it's the best looking Star Wars film in the Disney era. But there were some moments, but I would like to come back and just say this trailer definitely looks really good.
My takeaway is Rey running away from the TIE fighter.
Yes.
And then I was thinking, okay, you can't outrun a TIE fighter. And then she just at the last moment jumps over it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like welled up inside. It was just like that moment when she took the lightsaber from Kylo Ren using the Force.
Yes.
In The Force Awakens. Like, I think in that moment you see how great of a Jedi Rey is becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I'm glad there was a time jump between The Last Jedi and this movie, because now like she's gained so much more experience.
I was gonna say that ties into my number 2, which is I loved how it showed Rey has grown as a Force wielder. We see her breathing heavily, but then eventually centering herself, just like we've seen Luke do, we've seen Obi-Wan do, we've seen Yoda do. It's a very Jedi trait, and I love that we saw her calming herself. And yeah, that moment when she leaps above and literally sky walks above the TIE fighter, I gasped when I first saw it. It was one of those moments where you're just like, oh my goodness, like when you see something for the first time, that really grabs you. So I agree. That was my number 2. So
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. My number 2 is, Luke Skywalker is narrating this trailer, which is awesome. We now know, it was already confirmed that Mark Hamill would return, and we have confirmation of that here in this trailer. He's talking and saying new lines. It's everything that he was saying, like 1,000 generations live in you. We passed on all that we know. And then we have Leia's theme song. And then the part I think that stands out to me, and my second takeaway, is when he says, "We'll always be with you." And we see Leia embracing Rey. And, we know that this footage is from The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. They're using unused footage of Carrie Fisher. And it was beautiful seeing Leia again, and the music and what Luke says over all the footage. It was it's so Star Wars, and it's so J.J. Abrams trying to pull those heartstrings, on us, and trying to play into the 40 years of history that we have with this franchise.
Yes. It was good to hear Luke. It was good to hear Luke again. I'm guessing he'll be a Force ghost when he's saying these things.
Yeah.
But, when he says, "We've given you everything we know," who is we?
Yes. Yes.
Are there other
very good point
floaty figures in this scene?
Is one of them bearded?
Give it to us, JJ.
And give us Ewan McGregor, man. Bring him back.
Yes. Oh. Anyway, let's keep going.
Okay.
Should I go to number 3?
Yeah. What is your third takeaway?
Oh yeah. Third takeaway is a specific scene. I loved seeing the Death Star in the ocean.
Oh,
I loved seeing the wreckage from. I'm guessing it's Death Star 2, but I guess we'll never know for sure until we watch the film. Wreckage of Death Star 2 in an ocean, and it looks like there's this post-apocalyptic sheen to the landscape, almost like a nuclear spill out or something. I have this thing for wreckages. I like reading about shipwrecks and seeing photos of shipwrecks, and so this kind of, it's why I like Titanic so much. But this kind of grabbed me to this visual, and it raises so many questions. What are they doing there? What do they need to find on Death Star 2? What planet are they on? Is that Endor? Is that the ocean in Endor? Like, so many questions.
Yeah, definitely. I have a feeling that scene where they're all standing there and seeing the wreckage of the Death Star, I feel like that's the first act. And whatever they find in the Death Star is going to kick off. It's going to be like the hook of the movie, right? It kicks off their journey for the rest of the film.
Yeah. So you think this is towards the beginning of the movie?
I think so. I think if it's this early, they're showing us stuff from the first act.
They do look pretty fresh. Like, not much has not much has gone on yet in their adventure.
Yeah, they're not even sweating. So
Rey even has time to pack lunch. She's holding the little lunch pail.
All right, my third takeaway is the Palpatine laugh.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
When the laugh came in the trailer, I actually didn't know who it was. It sounded like Mark Hamill laughing like the Joker, so I was really confused. and then my second thought was, is it Palpatine? But that doesn't make sense. And if you're watching Star Wars Celebration when this trailer dropped, they had a panel discussion with the filmmakers and with the cast. And then when they dropped the trailer, the lights turned off. And then after the trailer ended, with the laugh and the reveal of the title of the film, the lights went on, and standing there was Ian McDiarmid, the actor for Emperor Palpatine. So that confirms Emperor Palpatine is in this movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was so shocked.
Again.
Yes, so awesome. And I think that confirms that J.J. Abrams is, quote unquote, uniting the trilogy. So he's taking all 9 movies, and it makes so much sense because Palpatine was the villain in episodes 1 through 6. He was the overarching big bad, and it makes sense that JJ will bring him back for this one. And we can get into theories, talk about theories. I guess since now I mentioned theories, let's talk about some theories. And you've shared with me some theories, and I think it would be pretty cool to talk about it here on our podcast.
Well, since we're still talking about Palpatine, we could talk a little bit about how in the world he's still in the picture. My theory is he's not in the corporeal realm, like he's not alive physically still. I do feel like they will encounter him in some way, perhaps in an echo through the Force, or we've seen that Rey is able to glimpse the future and the past by touching objects. So it's possible that as they explore the wreckage of Death Star 2, which they will, perhaps like echoes in the Force will appear because of Palpatine's presence. I have a hard time believing he's still around physically, but you never know. I would just that would be my best guess, I guess, based on what we kind of have seen in the past. What do you think? Do you think he's around for real?
I agree with you. I don't think he's alive physically. I don't know anyone in Star Wars who gets thrown down a shaft and there's like a lightning explosion.
Maybe that lightning explosion was him saving himself.
Yeah, I mean that's a serious retcon, and it kind of cheapens Return of the Jedi, right? I feel like it's probably so. My theory is that Kylo Ren talks to the mask of Darth Vader. And what if there's someone else on the other side who he's talking to? Because in The Force Awakens, we only see Kylo Ren's helmet, his face, and then it's revealed that he's talking to the mask of Vader. What if he's talking to a Force ghost tied to that helmet, but he thinks he's talking to Anakin Skywalker, but it's actually Sheev Palpatine?
That would be insane. And actually, this goes a little deeper into Star Wars lore, at least the new canon, but there's a Darth Vader series in the Marvel comics where he's building his castle on Mustafar, the one we've seen in Rogue One.
Right.
And he's guided by a mask, actually, a Sith mask that Palpatine gives him. And it's the mask that belonged to an ancient Sith Lord named Darth Momin. And actually, this mask is giving him instructions on what to build and how to build the castle. And actually, at some point, because the castle is built on such a strong part of the Force on the planet, this being that's speaking through the mask actually is able to take physical form again, and fights Vader before Vader kind of dispatches him, if I'm recalling the comic correctly. So they've been sowing seeds of this kind of possible story point in the canon before this movie, and it's possible that the mask the charred remains of Vader's helmet that Kylo Ren is speaking to, there's someone's talking through it because probably of all the dark side energy around it. But that's kind of inside baseball a little bit.
Yeah.
Could they be
that's
referencing
cool.
that? It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, you have a very good knowledge of the books and the comics, and also Rebels and Clone Wars. So I trust you when I throw ideas out there, and then you're able to reference all these different things that have been done that are now canon. So yeah, we'll see. I think both of us agree he's not there physically. If he's there physically, they better have a really, really good explanation how he survived that fall.
And I think people are gonna keep asking, well, what about Snoke? Like, where in the world did he come from? Was he just a stooge of Palpatine? Or is he just not as powerful as we all thought? This is gonna raise a lot of questions. And Snoke was created by JJ, so even more questions there.
Right. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure JJ is going to answer it. Like,
I think
he
so.
wants to please us, and I trust in him. I trust in his ability to bring us home. All right. Another theory, Rey and her parentage. Could you explain what you had explained to me this past weekend?
The ship or the title?
Yeah, the ship.
Okay. Well, I can't take full credit for this because I saw someone screen cap this on Twitter. Sorry if you're listening and I didn't credit you, but there's a ship. After the shot of Rey jumping the TIE fighter, and you see This Christmas, which kind of pulls you out of the whole galaxy thing. But anyway, you see the planet that's kind of bluish with mountains, and a ship that flies by. At first I thought it was an A-wing. One of those starfighters that the rebels fly. However, the A-wing engine lights are usually a more yellowish color, and these ones are blue. And it happens to match the shape of the same ship that we see in The Force Awakens, where Rey is screaming, "Please come back!" As a little girl,
little girl
Rey
young
screaming,
Rey.
"Come back!" as Simon Pegg drags her away. It looks a lot like this ship that just flew past. What could it mean?
And the two of us hung out this weekend, and we actually looked side by side. We went to The Force Awakens, we took a screenshot of it, and then we looked at the Rise of Skywalker trailer, and we looked at the ship, and yeah, it's the same ship.
It is. It
So,
looks just like it.
JJ is going to explore more of Rey's parentage, and that there's certainly more to it than what Kylo Ren disclosed in The Last Jedi. And I read something on the Slash film that also makes sense, because, in Last Jedi, Kylo Ren tells Rey that her parents are nobody. They're filthy junk traders buried in the deserts of Jakku. But, in The Force Awakens, she's waiting for her family to come back, and her family left Jakku. So there's like a discrepancy between these two accounts. And I think JJ's going back to that because I think there's some inconsistency there that needs to be explained. And, because JJ is the one who created the character Rey with Lawrence Kasdan, I think he wants to tell the story that he wanted to tell from the beginning, right? So he's going to bring some more closure to that, which I'm really thrilled about, because Kylo Ren's an unreliable narrator.
Yeah,
he's
you
telling
really
Rey-
want to believe that guy?
Yeah. He's totally trying to manipulate her in that scene.
You're nothing.
So
You're nothing. But not to me.
nobody. All right. So moving on from Rey, let's talk about one final theory, and this is a big one. Okay, when we didn't know the title of this movie until we saw the trailer. Even the YouTube video title just says Star Wars Episode 9 teaser. So they really wanted to keep the title of this movie hidden until you watch the trailer until the end. So after the Palpatine laugh, we see Star Wars. The logo is now in blue. It opens up, and then the title comes out. And I remember seeing the title and just freaking out, because the title is The Rise of Skywalker, and everything in The Last Jedi was like, forget the past, burn it, no Sith, no Skywalker. like let it all burn, and then here we have the rise of Skywalker, whatever that means. And this came out of left field. What the heck is, okay, so Job, basically everyone's wondering, what does it mean? The rise of Skywalker is, I mean, you could interpret this in so many different ways.
So my theory on what the title means is, I believe that The Last Jedi is actually an accurate title. And what I mean by that is that whatever Rey is right now and is going to become is not going to be like the Jedi of old. Instead, what I believe is they are going to be called Skywalker going forward. They're going to be named after the Skywalker lineage, and Rey is going to symbolically take the Skywalker mantle from here on out. And
so like a new order of Force users.
That's right. And the reason I feel like this might have some credibility is we've seen throughout our own history religious orders named after prominent figures that became symbols for their movements. I mean, we're Christian and we're named after Jesus Christ, right? And Buddhists are named after Buddha. In the same way, the Skywalker lineage, this family of powerful Force users, one of them was named the Chosen One. I still think Anakin Skywalker is the Chosen One. These characters have marked the galaxy in such powerful ways, and Rey is going to be, I think, a direct, the first of a new line of Force users named after the Skywalker family. And we're going to see how this family gets redeemed, because if you think about it, the Skywalkers, aside from maybe Luke, and even then, after The Last Jedi, I'm not so sure about this either, is just a complete mess of a family. I mean, Anakin was a powerful Jedi, a prodigy, turned to the dark side, killed millions of people across the galaxy, both directly and indirectly. Then Luke and Leia come out of this. Luke saves him, but then almost kills his nephew. And then his nephew becomes Darth Vader Part 2, but a little whinier, a little buffer, a little more shirtless. And so how is this family going to get redeemed? We saw Luke kind of redeem himself in The Last Jedi at the very end. Is that what this is about? Is he going to play a part in the story still, besides being the ghostly mentor? Will there be a cosmic, like in the Force battle, good versus evil? Maybe the Skywalkers that have passed on will end Palpatine's rule in the Force realm or something. There's so much possibilities. But I think when the title says The Rise of Skywalker, I think Skywalker is more than just Rey. Oh, Rey's part of this family. It's more of a symbolic thing. And another thing, before I let you give some input, is in the Thrawn Alliances book that came out last summer, Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's for those who are not as familiar with these stories, he's a Chiss, a blue-skinned alien, who served in the Clone Wars and fought in the Clone Wars indirectly. But essentially, I'm just going to boil the story down. He runs into this guy named Anakin Skywalker, and you see in the book that he reacts kind of with like, huh. And to provide some more context, Thrawn is this Sherlock-like character, very cerebral, very smart. And the name Skywalker rings some sort of bell in him. And we read later in that story that his people group, the Chiss, the aliens, anytime they have members of their race who are strong in the Force and are able to pilot ships with foresight and are able to see things before they happen. In their culture, these people are called Skywalkers. And so there's some precedent to Force users being called Skywalkers in other parts of the galaxy. So that's a very convoluted extra detail there, but that's what I drew from the title. I think that's where this is going. Anyway, my glasses slipped down my nose. I'm gonna push it back up.
I actually had no idea what to think until you shared it with me over the weekend, and that was when I felt like we should probably record a podcast discussion. That's a theory that I haven't seen. Albeit I haven't really looked like deeply into the internet for all these theories. I do want to save some of it for my, just to be surprised in the movie. But just hearing your theory, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the most important thing is it doesn't retcon anything from The Last Jedi. Because if this movie goes back and starts retconning things, decisions that Rian Johnson made, it's going to make The Last Jedi stand out so badly in this saga. I think this is one way that it honors The Last Jedi. It honors all 9 movies. It honors the Skywalker family. And I personally feel like it would be satisfying to me if this is how they ended it, with the rise of a new order of Force users, not Jedi. Because like Luke said in The Last Jedi, the Jedi must end. Because they abused their power, over the past however many generations. That's what led to their downfall and the rise of Darth Sidious, Emperor Palpatine. So I don't know what to think of the title, but your theory seems like it has a lot of evidence backing it from the canon. But come Christmas time, we'll see. We will both be there opening night, and hopefully we don't have a meltdown like 2 years ago.
Yeah. I really appreciated what you said. J.J. Abrams is the consummate professional, and I don't think he'll take a dump on anything Rian Johnson made. That just doesn't seem to be his style. He's not one to take pot shots, or at least from what we've seen in interviews and such. He seems like the most professional, safe filmmaker. And he has said in interviews, I've been listening to a few of those interviews in the wake of this trailer coming out, that he's totally going to respect and acknowledge everything Rian Johnson did in The Last Jedi, but there's more to the story, is what he'll always say. And so I guess that's the moral of the story. We just recorded a 45-minute podcast on a 2-minute trailer. When we do the movie, I'm guessing we're gonna have to do a 5-hour thing or something.
It's gonna be probably like a multi-part episode, right? Like one episode per hour, one 45 minutes per hour of the movie. All right. Are there any closing thoughts that you have before we wrap up?
Another cool detail I can't believe I didn't mention is the Skywalker saber is back. Anakin's lightsaber is repaired. It's brought together with this cool little leather handle thing on it. I love that. I love that it's back. My favorite lightsaber in Star Wars is Luke's green one, but this one is Excalibur. Basically, it's the Grail weapon in these movies. But yeah,
you know what else is repaired is Kylo Ren's mask.
Oh, that's right.
So seems like J.J. Abrams is piecing back together all the pieces that Rian Johnson had blown up.
And people are gonna say, oh, he doesn't actually respect what Rian Johnson did, but it's the third part of the trilogy. You're supposed to bring things back together. And I'm not being sarcastic. I do think, this is about fixing what was broken, and And I mean, I don't know. There's probably story explanations for all of it, and we're either gonna like it or hate it. But there's that. So,
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was just joking about piecing things back together. Like,
but
I totally agree
everyone,
with
that's the big joke, right? Across the internet and all in the comment sections is like, oh, it looks like JJ's gonna finally fix what Ryan broke. So I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's not Kylo Ren fixing his helmet, by the way. If you look at the hands that are putting it together, they're very hairy hands. Unless I mean, we saw that Adam Driver is not a hairy man. He's very.
So what was it? Chewie's fixing his helmet.
Is he?
Uncle Chewie.
Uncle Chewie and Uncle Wanwow. Lando. We didn't say anything about Lando. There's so much. There's a
lot to discuss. Yeah, Lando flying. Is he going to talk to L3? Who knows?
He hasn't changed his shirt in 45 years. He's still wearing the same yellow one. Anyway, sorry.
All right. This has been a over 40-minute plus podcast on a 2-minute trailer. For those of you who are still listening, thank you so much for tuning in and for listening to us ramble on about Star Wars. It's definitely a franchise we both love very deeply. Job has definitely been a Star Wars fan much, much longer than I have. I didn't actually come in until The Force Awakens. So I always enjoy listening to Job theorizing and then just giving us all these golden nuggets of Star Wars knowledge. So just get ready for probably some more Star Wars talk coming up.
Yeah.
Because, Galaxy's Edge, the new part of Disneyland, is opening up.
Oh my gosh, there's so much.
And maybe if the next trailer is as good as this one, we'll have another trailer discussion.
We'll have to wait till like October for that one, probably.
Yeah, probably. I'm just glad that we're not going to get that much footage from it.
Yeah, I
until
agree.
The movie's released.
I agree. This is gonna be fun. So thanks for talking to me again. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys, and just stay tuned to our podcast next week. A little small film is coming out, Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, we've been trying to expand our programming to more indie, unknown, films. This Endgame thing, I don't know if anyone's going to go watch it, but hope you tune in.
Yeah, if we can just promote it to our friends and get our friends to see it, I mean, that's the least we could do as, film lovers, right? To support it, independent, indie artists, art house films. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time.